Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we also have thank you also to Tom Mesereau. Thank you. Now we're going to bring in our other guests for the evening. From the ID Network, we do have Aphrodite Jones, I believe. Let me let her in. Aphrodite, good evening. Jordan
Hi,
from
Jordan.
New York.
How are you doing?
Okay, you're following the party. I am going to bring a blogger or a YouTube defender, I guess you could call him. Matt will join us as a co-host with me. Good evening, Matt.
Good evening, Jordan. How's it going?
Okay, but I want to go to Aphrodite first. It's been 5 years, his death, and now it's his birthday. Well, what's your take?
Well, I think that first and foremost, the fans that I see on Facebook, Twitter, you name it, are out in full force wishing Michael a happy birthday, even in death, because let's face it, Michael Jackson will live forever, not only in our hearts, but in the souls of everyone who listens to his music. And there's never a day that I go by that I don't hear a Michael Jackson song that makes me smile. And that is something that all of us share around the planet, regardless of what we feel or think about him personally. So I just believe that Michael will always be celebrated. And it's something that is a phenomenon to him and to him alone. If you really think about it, who else has their birthday remembered and celebrated by fans across the planet in every country around the world besides Michael Jackson, even after, 5 years after his death? And I believe it'll continue for as long as any of his fans are still alive. And, it's amazing the gift that he gave to all of us in his music and his dance and his performance. And I think also that everybody who is out there applauding Michael and rooting for Michael, as Tom Mesereau just said, also are very active in making sure that people realize that they're not going to tolerate others tarnishing or trying to destroy his name or his legacy. And there are those haters, if you will, that are still out there who just refuse to let go of negativity that was following and plaguing Michael in PR and in the media for a lot of his life. And I think that energizes the fans. I really do. I think it, aside from the fact that we celebrate what he gave us, all that he did for, this planet as an artist and really basically lived to be an artist, he also, he was a victim of a very horrible, malicious cycle of, whatever you want to call it, tabloid trash, prosecution and media vengeance, if you will. And his fans are just not going to tolerate it. And they're out there to say, hey, we love Michael, and, we want the truth to be known. And they fight for him. And I think that is, it's a testament to the power of this particular individual. I mean, he has superstar qualities even after death. Who can we say that has that, to the extent that Michael Jackson does? I don't think there's anybody. I really don't.
And a lot of people were interested in the book that you came out with in 2007. I did a little survey on the event page. What do you think of people with the books? And one of the answers positively was writers that wrote a Michael Jackson book before he died. So that got the most feed, and you did that, in fact. So can you please tell us about the book?
Well, I did. I wrote that book right after the trial. The trial ended in 2005, and I started writing that book, researching it the end of 2005 into 2006. It took me a year, and I brought it out in 2007. So that book really started, almost 10 years ago. And I did it because I felt that I had to set the record straight. There are some people back then who were accusing me of trying to just profit and being, not being genuine about what it was I was saying about Michael Jackson being a victim of the media. However, I think anyone who has read that book, rather than just taking a look at the cover and making decisions without reading the book, realizes that, no, in fact, I did all the work, and it's very genuine, and it's completely documented. And I did it because I felt it was the right thing to do. I mean, I did it because, yes, I love Michael Jackson's music, and Michael Jackson as an entertainer, but I didn't write that book for that reason. I wrote that book because I felt that was part of a media that was after him, and I had wool pulled over my eyes, and ultimately I came to a decision to look at the research and look at the evidence myself and try to figure out what the jurors saw. And then the truth was known, and I needed to make that known to people out there. It was not written for Michael Jackson's fans. It was written really for people who don't know about the truth about what was going on with Michael Jackson's life and how he was, in my opinion, persecuted by the law, not just prosecuted. And I presume obviously his fans like the book and want to read it, but I really, to me, I want people who have never thought about Michael as being an innocent person to read it, because I think that that's the real difference that I was looking to make, and it had nothing to do with him being dead or alive or anything like that. I mean, I did that. I believe Michael read that book. I know he was handed that book by his nanny, Grace. Oh, yeah. I know he was handed that book. And Michael was an avid reader. And I believe he read that book. But I have no way to confirm it because obviously before I ever had a chance to ever meet him on that level, well, I met him at trial, but I mean meet him and talk to him in that way, he was gone. So, but it's my hope and belief, and I sincerely believe he read that book, because I know enough about him to know that he was interested and curious about what people were thinking and saying about him. So, and again, he was handed, I know from Grace personally, handed 2 copies of it. So, I mean, what he may have thought of it, whether or not he really wanted to read it because he didn't want to relive it, those things I don't know. But he knew that it was out there. He knew that there was somebody fighting for him. Whether or not that meant anything to him, I think it did. I really do. And at the end of the day now, I mean, knowing Michael's been gone for 5 years, it's just hard to believe. But I also have to say, when I first wrote that book, Michael had just turned 50.
Right.
And so, he turned 50 just before he died. Prior to that, I actually went to a birthday party celebration for Michael, and I had the book with me, and we did it in Manhattan, in New York City, and I can't tell you, there were a lot of fans there, a lot of people at that party. And I remember thinking, how strange it is that we're all having a party for Michael Jackson, and he's not here. And it was just a phenomenon to me to see how many people were there with, whether they were impersonators, whether they were just fans, they were just dancing, his music was going. There were people, artists of every type who were there at this event, and I was there. And I don't think people realized the value of my book at the time. I mean, yes, they liked it and they bought it, but it wasn't until he died that people suddenly understood really the value of the book, and suddenly the book became, in demand, and to the point that I couldn't even fulfill the demand. And so here we are, years later, celebrating Michael's birthday as a community of people who realize how significant this person was and is in many people's lives and always will be. So I just think it's a phenomenon that continues. I mean, Michael is bigger than anybody that I can think of in the entertainment world, period.
Yes.
And, I think that's why we're having this celebration today.
Yes, I agree. Matt, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with Aphrodite. Michael Jackson's life, everything about him was a phenomenon. It was like a show. And that's the reason why people are so, why the fan base is so big, even after all this time and after all these allegations and after all these rumors and all these lies. There are people who will believe and people who won't, but he remains so big because people are drawn into him. They love him for, not just being an artist, because he's not just an artist. He was an amazing person. He was a humanitarian. He was a philanthropist. He loved and respected all of his fans. He took talent and inspiration from so many other talented people from, back in the years, like, Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, James Brown, Bill Bailey, Cab Calloway, Jeffrey Daniels, He was always just so versatile, and, the whole world was so drawn into him, and his music was so timeless. Like, even today, you can listen to Off the Wall, and it still sounds like it's new. So it's like a legacy that can't die no matter what people try and throw at him. And people have been trying to throw things at him for over 30 years, and they can't do it. I mean, there have been a lot of people who believe it after some time, but they don't want to do the research. You have all these liars. You got Chandler, you've got Arvizo, you've got now Robson, you've got now Safechuck. And it's ridiculous because if you actually look into their stories, like what they're claiming, you can read through the lies so easily. It's like Wade, for example. He goes on trying to blame Michael for his father dying in 2002. Well, that was 12 years ago. He's just throwing anything against the wall to see what will stick. That's why he's naming every single sexual act that a person can possibly do. He's just trying to see, okay, what can I possibly stick to the wall? What can possibly stick for me that I can throw at Michael Jackson? Same thing with Chandler, same thing with Safechuck. I mean, they have the same lawyer. The whole thing was really, as far as I'm concerned, it was very pre-planned. They had the same lawyer, almost the same claims, the same case. Every time there's an article released online about Wade or Jimmy, they're released pretty much on the same day, primarily by RadarOnline.com, which I'm not going to get into that website, but we can pretty much tell they're lying on that. Wade also has these other claims. Most of it is, actually all of it, is ridiculous, and it only takes about 5 or 10 minutes of research to really realize and see through lies. And I've noticed that a lot of people, fans or not, are actually starting to not believe the newer allegations from Wade and Jimmy, and I think it's because people are like, you know what, he's innocent, it's time to get past this and move on. And that's actually what I'm liking most now, is that people are starting to actually, even people who didn't like him before, are actually starting to open up their hearts and realize the actual truth now. And people like you, people like Aphrodite, people like Tom are always going to be there to show the truth, no matter how much BS comes out. And it's amazing that this timeless, amazing man will be loved, hopefully, till the end of time. That's how I really see this.
Well, I do think he'll be loved till the end of time, but I will also chime in and say that there is still, I find the phenomenon of people who I get to know personally, who know my work, but maybe have not read that particular book that I wrote, that read it and say, I can't believe, I didn't know this about Michael Jackson, whatever color they are and whatever creed they are, that, and I'm assuming that they really know, or they realize, or they know me, they know my work, that they would be aware of it. And the truth is, like you were saying, people don't take time to do 10 minutes of research. We're all living in a world where everybody is so busy trying to just make a living, trying to get by, trying to keep up with this crazy pace that we've gotten into in our current time, that it just seems like, no one has the time to do research, and people unfortunately continue to draw their conclusions from whatever it was that they know from the past, whatever allegations or, media rag covers that they have seen in their past, that with many people just stay with them. It just
Yeah,
stays with
absolutely.
them, and they don't, they don't bother, and that's why I say I really wrote the book for people who are not his fans, because I knew at the trial that his fans truly believed that he was innocent and that he was facing trumped-up charges. I just thought his fans were crazy back then when I was actually part of the media. I didn't know until I did my own research and went into it and reevaluated everything that his fans actually were the ones who were right, and that the rest of the world was, basically looking to make a lot of money off of sensationalizing something that could tear down the biggest celebrity on earth. And go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was going to make a comment.
Yeah.
Well, let me just say something to Aphrodite. We were talking to Tom Mesereau earlier, and we were talking about Diane Diamond and Stacey Brown, who wrote recently something about the New York Post. I want to start with you, Aphrodite. What do you think of Stacey Brown writing 5 years later, almost to the date, that Michael Jackson did all these horrible things, and he got it from so-called maids or something like that? And why would you write an article 5 years later? Then, what's your opinion on that?
Well, I met Stacey Brown in the trial. I actually spent some time with him. I also read the book that he wrote back then, which he was peddling at the trial, which I thought was, how do I put it? Inappropriate, perhaps, opportunistic. And I also found... Sorry?
Very bad, Stacey Brown, very bad reporter. I just want to throw that in there.
Well,
very poor.
Yeah, I didn't want to. I don't. I hate to besmirch somebody else who's in the industry that I'm in, but I won't disagree with you on that. I will also say that there were other people who I was checking sources with about him, because I was questioning where he was getting his material from, where he was getting his information from, and frankly, what I was able to determine was that his sources were questionable at best, and that he was, kind of reaching to even make it seem as if he was in Michael's fold, which apparently he was not. So, I mean, this is now, kind of things that I learned off the record. But between that and the actual book that I saw, which to me looked more like a pamphlet than a book, not a pamphlet, but just not a substantially, even in length, book, I found it to be, again, very opportunistic that he would peddle this around to the media while the trial was going on, in the hopes that somebody in the media would take it and run with it so that he could get a bestseller out of it. That's what I guess he was doing. I don't know what else, what other reason someone would do that for. Talking to Michael's maids, I also interviewed Michael's maids, okay? I did my homework and decided not to include those even my thoughts about those interviews in anything I've ever talked about, because frankly, the one in particular that I'm not going to name, all she wanted was money, 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 money. And that's what she made clear to me in our meeting at a Starbucks. So I thought, you know what? I can't go down this road of, if people are doing something because they truly care about the truth, then they truly care about the truth. And people, most authors do not make very much money from writing books. I don't know if anybody out there understands that. There are maybe 24 writers in the world that are Stephen King status, and everybody else has to have, quote, a real job, because books don't bring you a whole lot of money. There's not a whole lot of, J.K. Rowling's or anything close to it in the planet. And so, most people write books, especially nonfiction books, because they have a story to tell. They have some reason that they want something known, and I did that 7 years ago and have never wavered from what I wrote or what I said. I didn't wait until 5 years later to start changing stories or switching stories or coming up with new information or throwing stuff around. It's just I don't understand that at all. I just think it's, how do I put it? I can't even say the words in bad taste, because that doesn't really get you what, it's not the, it's.
Can I please chime in about the whole 5-year thing?
Sure.
Okay. I hear a lot of people bringing up, why is it happening after Michael's death? Why 5 years later? It's brought up by everybody, from fans to everybody brings this up. And I just want to mention to people that it's not uncommon for sex abuse victims to come out 15, 20 years later. This is actually a fact. So when you look at cases like Wade Robson, Jimmy Safechuck, you don't just say, 5 years. We all have to look at the exact facts from their own story. And I mean, the Michael Jackson, the anti-Michael Jackson people or haters, they are actually aware themselves that sex abuse victims take many years to come out. And having, being kind of like manipulated by your abuser is actually very common. But the way to figure out that these people are lying, like Wade and Jimmy, is based on facts about their own stories, not just because it's 5 years. Why 5 years and not 4, 3, 2, 1? Well, it's just when they decide. For example, with Jimmy, it could be because it was a week after Escape was released. Or with Wade, it could be because it was 2 weeks after the MJ1 show. Timing can work in that regard, but we all have to focus on the facts. I just want to say that. It's not just because it's 5 years
I agree with you. I wasn't actually referring to the accusers. I was answering the question about Stacey Brown writing this article 5 years later. And why he would choose to do this now, I don't know. As far as the accusers coming out, whenever they've come out, they didn't only come out now. Wade Robson came out, wasn't it a year or two ago already now that he started with his allegations? I mean, this isn't new with him. And, none of these allegations are particularly new. They've been floating around for years.
Yeah, well, Wade, if you look at actual transcripts, Wade claims to have had a breakdown 2 years ago and all this stuff. But if you look at the actual timing of it, it was like a week or two after, or maybe before, if I can correct myself here, before the MJ1 show that he wanted to be on and then was denied for. So, I mean, if that's not like, okay.
I know that. But that was years ago.
Yeah.
That's not 5 years. That's what I'm saying. I was only answering the question specifically about Stacey Brown writing something now, 5 years later, referring to what the maids had to say, who were Michael's maids. As far as the accusers are concerned...
Funny. I was into that article as well about how messy he was. That, honestly, I'm sorry, but that actually made me laugh. It was just so ridiculous. Yeah, he urinated in the foyer of his house. Yeah, I'm sure about that. It's so ridiculous. They're just throwing everything they possibly can.
So, yeah, what's your take on that article, Matt?
Oh, my take on it?
Yes.
Well, that article was interesting to me. I mean, I found it funny, like I said, but the thing is, Michael Jackson was messy and unorganized. There's pictures of his house all over the internet. So, I mean, it's true that he had like a messy closet, messy bedroom, etc., but that doesn't mean that he went to the bathroom on his floor. And the thing is, if that was true, you'd think that at least one of those pictures of his house would show feces or urine on his floor anywhere in the house.
That's so ridiculous. He had his children there. We saw images of his entire house that were shown for quite a long time that the detectives had taken video of when they did the raid on Neverland, and nowhere and anywhere in all the images that we saw in court of that house, and that went on for quite some time, like I would say 45 minutes worth of recording, was there anything that resembled that kind of mess or behavior or filth? It just didn't exist in his house. He had a house full of people he had staff, I don't know how many staff. I think he employed 50 people on Neverland. Not, cleaning it, keeping the grounds, doing all of that. That's just insane.
It is, absolutely. I mean, like I was saying, like if you Google pictures of his house, both Neverland and the Havenhurst house, there is some mess. Like he's got clothes and papers around, and that's fine. But nothing, absolutely not one picture shows any human waste whatsoever. And if that was true, you'd think that you really think you'd see at least one picture to prove it, but there isn't.
Well, again, this is where people like to do mudslinging after the fact. For what reason? So that their name could be bantered around, which is I guess they're getting their wish, because we are talking for some reason about Stacey Brown, who I don't feel has any true credentials, frankly. That's just my opinion.
Tom Mesereau quoted it as saying he doesn't consider Stacey Brown a real journalist, to quote him.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I happen to agree.
Mr. King, sorry, I just wanted to mention one other thing. I've got a couple fans here wanting me to make a quick statement on the supposed Jimmy Safechuck and Michael Jackson wedding. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but it's one of Jimmy Safechuck's claims that he had a fake marriage for Jimmy. Of course, as usual, this has no backup. There's absolutely no pictures, proof. There's no fake ring or fake wedding certificate. It's just, again, as you put it, Aphrodite, just mudslinging. Have you heard anything about this supposed wedding?
No, I there is something I have to say, and I can't stay on much longer because it's very late for me in the East Coast time. I will say this, though. For every fan there is who loves Michael Jackson, there seems to be somebody out there with doubts and questions and, just mudslinging and haters, whatever you want to call it. And
yes.
it is odd to me that Michael is still a polarizing figure in the world. I don't know why people want to hold on to, like I say, the negativity that haunted him in his life when he is now gone and has left a legacy of fantastic music and dance and, as you say, philanthropy and goodness and concern about the planet. And to me, his ultimate message, toward the end of his life was the Earth song and caring about the Earth and caring about us healing the Earth. And to me, that was one of the most important messages he ever gave. And he understood that just before he died. That was one of the last things he focused on. And to me, this is what I think people need to walk away with from his legacy and do something about, and stop quibbling about all of this, to me, water under the bridge that's nonsense, that's talk about mudslinging and dirt slinging, and it's just, I don't understand. What about, the messages that Michael had? And what about healing the world? What about being as one?
That doesn't matter to a lot of people, sadly. It's unfortunate, but that doesn't even matter to so many people. They just ignore it.
What about looking in the mirror and making a change? What about the environment that's falling apart and that we only have maybe 15 or 20 years to fix before it can possibly go wrong forever? What about having a planet and a world that is as one, that we can unify and try to save this planet? That was Michael's ultimate message. Can't we listen to that? Because if we don't, I have news for you.
What the music industry is now, it's not like that, because the music industry wants to block out inspirational, well-meaning songs, and they want to push out, what today they want to push out songs about sex and stuff. They don't care about Man in the Mirror or Earth Song or anything like that. They don't care anymore these days.
But the fans do, and there's enough of us out there who can actually now take our energy and stop worrying about fighting off these ridiculous, quirky, bizarre allegations that are coming out of nowhere, and take our energy and actually do what Michael asked us to do, which is to look at the Earth and do something, look in the mirror and change something, and do something that can make this world a place that's safe for the children, for the future, for the new generations, because we are destroying the planet. I mean, I study Michael's work, not just as enjoying the songs, but the messages of his work. And that, to me, was his most powerful message. And it's in This Is It in the film. He goes into it. You hear him talking about it when they're going through Earth Song. It's very bold there. And, I mean, this is it. It says it all. We need to focus on the planet. We need to heal this world environmentally.
Yes, true.
And if we want
100%.
children to inherit an earth that's usable and clean and good, then we need to start fixing it. So all of Michael's fans, and by the millions all around the world, that should be the focus. And as much as I care about, people looking at Michael as understanding that he was persecuted, prosecuted unjustly, and that's why I wrote that book, I really feel at this point we need to move beyond that and move into the message.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And after that,
entirely.
for joining us here tonight on this night for Michael Jackson's birthday bash. Appreciate you coming on for a few minutes.
Thank you so much, King Jordan. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Aphrodite. You're great. So much.
You're great. You're great. You guys are great.
It's still available, right?
Yeah, the book is out on ebook, Michael Jackson Conspiracy. I put it on ebook for the first time ever, and it actually hit the New York Times list last week at number 20. So Michael Jackson fans are out there, and they are reading it, and that's fantastic. And I never have had, I don't have many ebooks. I'm a little behind the times when it comes to that. So it's taking me all this time to actually get that book into ebook. But it's finally there, and people can download it for $4.99 or something and read the truth. So if that's something, if that's something people want to do, I'm happy. But I really, as I said, my bigger thing is at this point, listen to his message. Let's do something about saving this planet.
Change the world. Make it a better place.
No, really, and I mean it. I'm not saying it in platitudes. I mean really do something. Really look in the mirror and really do something.
And take the words, not just the song itself. Take the words that are saying.
Yeah, and do it. Do it.
That's right.
Do it. Okay, guys.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Have a good one.
You too.
Okay. All right.
Jordan,
hang on a second, Matt. Yes, we are going to go. Yes, we're going to go to a song by Nicole and Scotty. Let's see here. Nicole and Scotty, I'm being told are...
Can I just sign off
and
say bye? I just want to say thank you, everybody who came on. I am a YouTube ranter and Michael Jackson advocate. You can check me out anytime. MattsFTR, MattsFTR on YouTube. Thank you so much, Jordan.
You got it, Matt.